at any time, and we'll get to those when we can, and to as many as we can. If you're joining us on the live stream from Facebook or YouTube, you can use the chat feature on there, and we have people monitoring those chats, watching for questions there as well. So ask all the questions, and we'll get you all the answers. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Sara.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for being here, and thanks to Kristen and her team for helping me out with questions on all the different platforms. I appreciate all the eyes and all the help. To introduce myself, I am Sara Beaudry-Wiltse. I'm the Director of Interprofessional Education and Wellness here at Noorda, and we will talk more about what both of those mean. A little bit more about myself. I come from a background of collegiate sports medicine as a certified athletic trainer for over 20 years. I worked college hockey, men's ice hockey for 8 years. I say they raised me, which was always a unique experience with college hockey. And then I went on to work pretty much every college sport that there is, everything from football to basketball, men's soccer, track and field, all sorts of things. On the sides, I also did some recreational and youth sports and some professional sports like USA Taekwondo and X Games and things like that. During my career, I got involved in teaching and started teaching, and then more in administration of higher education, and finally decided to move into higher education full time, which eventually brought me here to Noorda. And one more thing about me is I'm currently finishing a PhD in mind-body medicine. I'm in the middle of a lengthy dissertation phase on how college students cope with stress. So highly applicable to my roles now and supporting those of you here at Noorda. So that's a little bit about me. Interprofessional education is one of the hats that I wear here at Noorda, and they kind of overlap a little bit, but they are two separate hats. So interprofessional education is the first one. Interprofessional education is getting a lot more recognition lately in education, especially in medical education. And it's essentially just learning alongside different healthcare professionals and different healthcare students as well. And there's 4 main competencies that are involved in IPE. And those are roles and responsibilities, being able to identify those. Also communication, teamwork, and then also ethics and values. And we focus on all 4 of those, obviously, here at Noorda. It's really important to me that these concepts are interwoven into the curriculum, and they don't come across like, an addition or like an afterthought, because it's really important to me that these things are part of who you are as a physician and a future physician. And they're really kind of the framework and the foundation of how you build your career and your practice. So we try to do that right from the very beginning in education. We do that through a couple of different ways. One thing you'll notice, and I'm sure you're aware of Noorda's unique curriculum that's all pre-recorded videos and things. So in that curriculum, you will see recorded videos from other healthcare professionals. So for example, just yesterday, I was speaking with a phlebotomist about recording a video that will be added into the content on venipuncture, and talking about her experience and telling some real life stories and how it's applied there, and her process from getting like a request for a blood draw all the way through doing it, sending it to lab, in the whole circle. So right from the very beginning, not only are you learning the skills, but you're learning other healthcare professionals that utilize the same information, how they're utilizing it in their career and in their field, and how you will all work together in these same areas. So that's one example of how you'll see IPE in the curriculum here at Noorda. Another way is that you'll see events. Right in your very first semester at Noorda, you will attend an event that I call the speed dating for the interprofessional healthcare team. And it is speed dating style. If you're aware of what the style is, essentially you come and you have just a few short minutes to get to know someone. And then you move on to the next person, and you will do that with multiple different healthcare professionals. We just did this a couple months ago with our students, just 6 weeks into the semester. And we had 13 different healthcare professionals from throughout the community, everything from the same phlebotomist I was talking about to a pharmacist and anesthesiologist, a nurse practitioner, an acupuncturist that runs the integrative health program at the Children's Hospital here, 13 different ones. And students were broken up into small groups of like 3 or 4, and they rotated around and spent 4 minutes with each one of these professionals. I was able just to get a snapshot of what they do. And the students really came away from the event with an understanding that there are a lot of different healthcare professionals that are highly educated and highly experienced that we will work with as part of a team, instead of being like, I'm the doctor, I'm here on my own. It's you are a piece of a puzzle of like a lot of really skilled professionals. They also came away with an understanding of communication and how important that is. And they were able to hear from all these different positions on, how communication is key in those relationships. So those are some really awesome takeaways. You'll see a lot more events like that. We have a diversity event coming up in the spring semester. Later on, as we have students that are able to participate in more advanced activities, such as like performing well child exams in schools, sports physicals for high schools and middle school athletes, things like that. And my goal is to bring in other healthcare students and professionals to work in that team setting and get some experience in those ways. So those are some ways, those are some events you'll see from the IPE curriculum. And to bridge into my other hat is wellness. I'm also the director of wellness. And to some, those may seem like 2 very different things. And they are very different things, but I do feel like they overlap. And, the more we work in teams and the more that we realize that we're just a piece of the puzzle, I think with that comes a lot of increased passions and fulfillment, because you're able to focus on what you really want to as part of that team instead of having to be a jack of all trades. But with that also comes a responsibility and the benefit of being able to support each other and care for one another within the healthcare system. We're seeing a lot of troubling statistics coming out about mental health in physicians and in healthcare, and being able to have eyes on each other and work in those support. So kind of bridging over into wellness, I see the 2 working together. Then fully stepping over into the wellness department, my goal with the wellness department is really to support you, the students, faculty, and staff at Noorda, in creating habits that will benefit you throughout your education, career, and your life. Helping you to figure out how to take care of self, how to have harmony between, your home life and your work or your education, and figuring out how to really make that work instead of just like slipping it in whenever you can, which will maybe not happen, but really making it a priority. Here at Noorda, we've identified and adopted 8 different wellness dimensions because, wellness is not just physical wellness, but it includes emotional, environmental, financial, intellectual, occupational or education, spiritual, social, and physical wellness. So those are the 8 wellness dimensions that we focus on, and we really try to hit on all of those and support all of those as well. Like I mentioned earlier, the wellness department here at Noorda is far-reaching. It's not just for students, it's also for faculty and staff. So every wellness event that we offer here at Noorda is open to everyone. And I think that that's really important because number one, everyone needs it, and I want everyone to have the opportunity. But 2, it's great to see everybody interacting in those ways. I love the faculty and staff being able to set the example. I also love the faculty and staff being able to learn from students and vice versa. A lot of these opportunities and these events give us time just to talk and share and open up. And there's a lot of learning and support and camaraderie that happens from that. We do events like I have somebody that comes in and does a sound bath once a month where she plays a bunch of different instruments over you, and it's a music meditation time. That's a really popular one. Every Tuesday, we do a mindfulness meditation that's virtual, so anybody can join from wherever they are, whether you're in pods or whether staff is in their office or people that are at home. And it's just like 15 minutes usually, and it's just a guided meditation. We do it nice and quick on Tuesday mornings. We also do lunch and learns. We have a couple coming up on positive language and affirmations and journaling. We just did one on time management and scheduling. We also have, physical opportunities like yoga, and I'm planning like a CrossFit challenge day when the weather warms up in the spring. We have make and takes, like come and make bath salts and, little ornaments, or do like paint nights and things like that. And that bridges over. I want to give a shout out to Jamie that runs our student activities. Her and I work a lot together to provide opportunities like that. So those are some of the fun activities that we do. We also do a weekly wellness check-in with all of our students. It's required as part of the curriculum. And every week you will be asked to submit a photo of something that you've done to support your wellness throughout the week. And then also take a quick 5-minute or 5-question survey, just 5 questions, really quick to fill out and respond. And those are great because not only does it show, our support of wellness and encourage you to do it, and give you a little reward and requirement for doing it. But the survey also gives us a really great pulse on the student experience. It'll give us, some of the questions are about like the stress you're experiencing. There's a open question or an open answer question about, has anything big happened in your life? We'll get answers in there like, we just bought a home and now we have to move, or we had a baby born, or a death in the family, or my wife is sick, or, things just for us to be aware of. And we've noticed that students do use that survey sometimes to communicate with us of what's going on and how we can best serve them. So that wellness survey is really great. It's shared with myself and then learning services. And it just kind of helps us know how you're doing and how we can better support you. I want to mention just a couple more wellness opportunities that we give. In the curriculum, we do wellness breaks in with the recorded content. You'll see stuff pop up in the middle of content like dance breaks or mindfulness prompts or just jokes and memes. Like after a lot of intense content, maybe there's just something to kind of take your mind off of it for a minute and give you a little bit of a break. In our in-person review sessions, I've seen people lead like stretching sessions or just get up and move around for a minute, tell a good joke, like something just kind of make sure that your mind is getting some breaks and that your body's getting a little bit of movement and taking care of you in those ways. There's also a ton of on-site support. Every student is assigned 2 different docents that are essentially, our job is to mentor you and check in with you and make sure that things are going well. One from the clinical side and one from the academic side. And like I said, it's our job to make sure that things are going well and see what we can do to help. So everybody has at least 2 people assigned just to them. Then we also have our mental health counselors that are on campus for free mental health for students, and learning services, or the Department of Learning Services. And that whole team there is great about helping you sort through like, would a tutor be helpful, or is there something else going on in your life that needs to be addressed, and how can we best support you? So they're really, really beneficial as well. And then one thing I have coming up, even students and staff that are already at Noorda may not know about this yet because it's not launched yet. But by the end of the year, we will launch the Wellness Store. And the Wellness Store is a place where you can go buy goodies that support your wellness. But here's the kicker. You get to buy them with points that you earn. So you're not actually spending your cold hard cash. You're buying them with wellness points. And you earn wellness points by completing wellness badges. So for example, just last month, I sent out information on a badge on winter driving because half of our students and half of our faculty are not from Utah. And I want to make sure everybody knew what they were doing before the storms came in. And so they watched like 3 different short videos on winter driving, answered a quick quiz. And, the quiz was a lot of stuff like, what are you going to do to prepare your car for the winter? And it's things like add in a snow brush and, make sure that I always have gas in my tank, things like that. And then they earn 30 points, and they'll be able to, after, they rack up some points from different badges, they'll be able to go to the wellness store and purchase like a Yeti. I just added like a Yeti water bottle or a Yeti coffee cup or different enamel pins for your white coat or your lanyard, blankets, candles, things like that. So I think that'll be fun. That's a little bit of a reward and an incentive to do even some more self-care and pay attention to your wellness. So I'm excited to get that launched. And I think it's always fun to shop, right? Like Dr. D always laughs about shopping as part of self-care and how he's learning. I'm like, this wellness store, it's part of it. Yeah. So hopefully that'll be fun, and we can launch that by the end of the year. But that's really the overview I have of IPE and wellness. So there's a lot more to it, but that's the overview.
Awesome. That was a great overview. And I do have some questions here prepared that we'll run through. But again, if you're joining us and you have questions about either of these areas, please drop them in the chat or use the Q&A feature here on Zoom, and we will get your questions answered. Okay, so you talked about the wellness breaks and kind of those being built into the curriculum. How frequently are students going to see those? And you mentioned a couple of them. Are they showing up like in a video, like it's a video module in the middle of their other, say like biochem modules or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So those that, the academic affairs team that actually puts everything into Canvas is the platform we use for all of our curriculum. When they put it in, if the faculty hasn't already put a break like that in, which a lot of them have and a lot of them do, the academic affairs team will add them in, and they're at logical times. It's not like you're learning about like cell reproduction and then all of a sudden like something pops in. It's like at logical times, but they do try to add things in, especially during some of that like really intense, like really complicated content. They will just try to give your brain a break for a minute and get your body moving so it can kind of integrate all together. So there's not like a set, like every 5 minutes or anything like that, but it's interspersed, and you'll see at least a couple of breaks. I would say 2 to 3 at least every day, and every day is usually anywhere from 4 to 6 hours of content, right? So it's pretty good, but they're at pretty regular times and logical times, and again, just meant to give your brain a little bit of a break, get your body moving a little bit, and break it up so that you're not, by the time you pull away from your curriculum, you're not like, oh, I've been here for 5 hours with no break.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's easy to get just kind of sucked into the content. And I mean, I know I do that with work. I need someone to build this into my workday for me and just like force me to take a break.
Yeah.
Because I'll turn around, I'm like, oh, lunchtime passed. Whoops,
Yeah. Remind me let's talk about this later, because I just found out that Microsoft Teams actually has a wellness app that will remind you.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for those of you using Teams, you can look into that. But let's talk about it later. And maybe we need to
that would be awesome.
A tutorial to everyone, since we are a Microsoft-based organization. So
that would be awesome. Yeah. Okay. So can you talk a little bit about what some of our students are doing for wellness and like what kind of counts, if you will, for turning in those activities? And you said it's an hour a week that they're required to report on?
So we suggest an hour a week, but really they're only turning in a photo of something that, a representation of something that they were doing to support their wellness for the week. So the story I love to give is, we had a student, and as I'm going through, because I grade this assignment, and by grade, it's literally pass fail. If you turn in the photo and do the survey, you did the assignment, end of story, right? So it's not like I'm grading like actually on a scale. But I'm looking through, and I love to look at the photos that come through, because sometimes I'll see like group photos and like everyone went to Zumba together, or like the last one was everybody went to, not everybody, but like a group of like 7 students went to In-N-Out after the last exam, and they posted like a group picture of them at In-N-Out. And then sure enough, I got 6 more submissions of the same picture, like all of them submitted the same picture. So it's fun to see group stuff like that. I always love seeing what's happening, seeing pictures of new babies and seeing gorgeous landscape pictures of when people go on hikes and bike rides and things like that. That gave me an idea. Maybe we should start like a photo album of some of these gorgeous pictures, because when we say it's pretty around here, like I'm not joking. But anyways, back to the story. So I'm going through every week, and I keep seeing the same picture of this guy playing soccer every week. And it's like the exact same picture. So I finally emailed him and I said, hey, I worded it a little bit more professional than this, but I said, hey, like, I love that you're playing soccer, but I need a little bit more variability, like at least a different picture, right? So I can tell that you're not just using the exact same picture, not really doing it. And he wrote me back and he explained, like, I've tried a lot of different things and I found that soccer is really the best way for me. Like, I'm not really interested in trying like yoga or whatever. Like, this is what works for me. And I wrote him back and I said, number one, I think it's awesome that you figured out something that works for you. But I also think you're probably doing other things and just not realizing that they would work for this submission. And I said, for example, like spending time with your family, cooking a good meal, or even just eating a good meal, like a restaurant meal is fine. Maybe it's journaling or reading or playing video games, watching a movie, going to a wedding or like a family birthday party, or, any of those would work. And from then I love seeing what he submits because he really has embraced that. And I do get like pictures of family and like his dog and them on walks and like them at the pumpkin patch just a couple weeks ago. And so any of those, I tell that story to say that like any of those are what we see as wellness, really anything that does something that fills you up, that makes you feel more level, that makes you happy or calm or process through something that's bothering you, like any of those. And, I go back to the 8 wellness dimensions, like setting up a budget or like reviewing your student loans and like really feeling empowered in that, like all of that falls into wellness. So any of those would be accepted, or I guess like a good thing to submit for that assignment.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. And you kind of touched on this. So it sounds like the wellness component part of the curriculum does count for a grade. And so those quizzes that they're filling out, it's not really right, wrong. It's just you fill out the quiz, answering the questions about what you did and kind of how you're feeling, how things are going, submit the picture, and then you're passing, and that's your grade.
Yeah. It's really, we do attach it to a grade because we want to incentivize you to do it. Because we really do want to know how you're doing and how you're feeling and how things are going for you. So we do attach it to a grade, but it's just purely pass fail. It's not on a scale at all. And it's looped into your SEPA grade. SEPA is the course that you'll take every semester that you're at Noorda. And that's what it's under. But yeah, no pass fail. Like you don't have to be like under a certain stress level limit. You just have to communicate with us and let us know how you're doing. That's all we want, so that we can support you in the best way we can.
But not doing this can impact your grade because it is tied into that SEPA course grade.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So you just got to communicate. That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Kind of switching gears to the interprofessional education piece.
Yeah.
So will the interprofessional education opportunities continue throughout all 4 years at Nordicom? Or how do you envision interprofessional education opportunities being integrated into the clinical rotations if they go that far?
Great question. So while you're still on campus, you will have interprofessional education opportunities, and you'll see that both through the videos, in your curriculum, and then also through these other events like I talked about. I know I really quickly went through them. You probably remember the speed dating event, the videos that'll be in your curriculum. But as we continue to have students and our students get better and better with their clinical skills, I want to put those to use. So one thing that we're already working on with the mayor of Provo is getting into the elementary schools, especially some of those elementary schools with lower socioeconomic levels, and providing well child exams within the elementary schools. That'll give our students an opportunity to get hands-on with pediatrics and also provide a service for those in need in our community. I would love to bring in other healthcare professionals and other healthcare students into that same space with us, whether that's, nursing students or maybe social work, any of those I think would fit great in that setting. Another one I want to do, and of course, because of my sports medicine background, I really want to host sports physical clinics for middle school and high school students. One thing that's happening right now in Utah County and in Utah in general, and probably across the nation, but I haven't checked, is a lot of high schools, they have athletic trainers that provide sports medicine care, and they used to do sports physicals with their team physician in the high school setting, and the kids would get them for free and then be cleared for participation. A lot of school districts are now starting to say that they don't want that liability and are not allowing physicals to happen in the school anymore. And so now students are being sent back to a physical or to a primary care physician to get these sports physicals before they can be cleared to play. That's a limitation for some students, and that's a barrier to participation for some middle school and high school students, whether they don't have, the insurance or the funds to be able to go get a physical, or whether it's, there's a lot of different things. Mom and dad work too much, can't take me, like whatever it is. I would love to open our clinic and do big, like free physical days and get these kids ready to participate in sports. And that's going to be another opportunity where we can pull in athletic training students, physical therapy students, to do ortho exams and other healthcare professionals. And this is how we did it in the college. I did this in the college setting for 20 something years, was different stations, and somebody does eye checks and the next person does blood pressure and the next person does ortho. And, we just funnel them through and sign these kids off and get them on the field or on the court. So that's something that's on my radar that I'm excited to do in the next couple of years and launch. I just need our students to get to that point in their clinical education that we can do it, right? So that'll be happening in probably second or third year. And then you asked also, I didn't really talk about specifically in the clinical setting, but I'm already talking with the deans of the clinical department about being aware of who they're working with in the clinical settings. Even when they're scribing, even when our students go out and scribe, they'll have reflections and assignments of like, who are the other healthcare professionals that you worked with that day or that you saw interact with the patient that day, and just being aware and making note and seeing the interactions. Just being aware of what's happening brings a lot of opportunity for education and influence.
That's awesome. So are the interprofessional education components going to be integrated when students are doing, say, like a simulated patient encounter with either with the mannequin, I hope that's the right word, or like with a standardized patient actor? Will they have opportunities in those cases?
Yeah,
to work with others?
Great question. It really depends on the actual simulation. But I meet with the SIMS team at least once a month. And we absolutely have plans to put all that together. If you remember that I mentioned 4 different competencies within IPE, obviously teamwork and roles and responsibilities, but then also ethics and values and communication. So every single simulation that involves a patient, whether it is a mannequin or a standardized patient, is going to involve communication and like the ethics and values of how you interact with those patients. But then some of the simulations will also have like another healthcare professional that's present, and that may be played by an actual healthcare professional that we bring in, or maybe another student. And there is also going to be opportunity, obviously, in patient care and in a specific case for referrals, or maybe it's information and history on the situation and the patient coming from another healthcare professional. So yeah, it kind of really depends on the setting. Like every case is going to be different, but absolutely IPE will be involved in a lot of them in one way or the other, because the whole point of simulation is to simulate how it's actually going to be, in the healthcare setting, in the clinic, in the hospital. And you're going to be working with other healthcare professionals. Like that's what you're going to do. So we want to make it as accurate as possible.
Yeah, you don't want to have your first interaction with a nurse be like in a room with a real life patient.
No, no, you don't.
You want to play that out beforehand.
Yeah, you want to play it out, and you also want to understand that like this nurse probably knows a ton and can really help you. And so like this is a big advocate, and like let's work together as a team and let's get used to doing it that way. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so you mentioned like the speed dating with the other health professionals. Mm-hmm. Are those just folks in the community that you're connected with, and like those that are coming in on the videos in the curriculum and that kind of thing? Is that just local healthcare providers?
So some of them are local and then some of them are distance. So we have put out a call to the community for healthcare professionals that are interested in being involved. I have a whole directory of different healthcare professionals that are both local and distance. We sent it out on Nordicom's Facebook page, and a lot of us faculty shared that on our personal pages. And a lot of our clinical faculty obviously have great connections locally. But, I was talking with a nurse practitioner the other day about doing another video for us, and she's in Arizona, right? But because we can do it all digitally, like we can totally do a video like this and record it and then edit it and put it into curriculum. So some of them are local, some of them are distance, and it really kind of depends on the ask and the need on if they need to be local or not. Obviously, to be there at our speed dating event, I wanted them to be local. I wanted it to be face-to-face, but we did have one person that was distance, and it was through Zoom, and they just went into a pod for that rotation, and it was all on Zoom. So, there's opportunities. The thing that I loved about that speed dating event, there's a lot that went really well, but I was really impressed by the community support. To bring in 13 different healthcare professionals for an entire evening. We were there for 5 hours, including dinner. The students were split up into two groups. The students were really only there for 2 hours at a time. But, I was impressed that those people would take time out of their busy lives to come be with us. And their feedback was really great too. They said, we love this. We love getting to know everybody and getting to know the students. And so everybody had a good time. But the community support has been impressive.
That's awesome. That's, that is a big ask for them to be there for, 5 hours in an evening when they're probably taking time away from their family and they're deciding to be with us and our students. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. So, okay, you mentioned like the wellness activities, like the sound bath and the mindfulness meditation things that you do, lunch and learns. On the whole, would you say that those are well attended, and are students counting those toward their wellness activities for the week, or do they have to do something outside of that? That's several questions. Correct in one.
No, I'll try to hit on all of them. If I miss one, remind me. First off, they can absolutely use those for their wellness activity that they submit. Ironically, I don't see much of it popping up. So that's the funny thing. But what it tells me, or what I'm assuming from this, is that that's because they're doing quite a bit of wellness, which is awesome. Like, I love that. I love seeing that while they may have attended the sound bath or, the lunch and learn, they have a lot of other opportunities or options to submit for their assignment. So I love that it's not like, oh, I did my sound bath for the month. Like, that's all I need to do, right? Because wellness is going to be much bigger than that. Taking care of yourself is a minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day process. So they can submit it. Ironically, they don't often. But I do see it from time to time. I'm also all the sound baths, so I know who's there. And sometimes I'll see a picture, but, not always. The other question, are they well attended? Yes. For having one class on campus, I would say our stuff is pretty well attended. Whether I'm planning an event regardless. So if 8 people show up or 20 people show up, it's really no different to me. So like what I'm offering right now will be a lot of what I continue to offer as our student population grows. And I just anticipate that the numbers will grow as well. So I'm very pleased with what they are so far. We're also learning and growing and figuring out what are the best times to offer things. Some people like things in the afternoon, and like we do the sound baths from 4 to 5 p.m. every third Wednesday because a lot of our staff and faculty come too, and most of them have mentioned the last thing they want to do after that incredibly relaxing experience is go back to the office. So they just like come to the sound bath and then everyone goes home. But that's also like after our pod activity or like after our pod session for our afternoon students. For our students that choose a morning pod session, they would have to come back for that activity, right? Like they'd have to come back for that event. So I realize that, that maybe is kind of limiting accessibility, but it's what we feel is best for that one. A lot of other wellness stuff we try to do midday, right in that lunch hour period because there aren't any labs scheduled during that time. And that's kind of where the pods overlap, like morning is leaving, afternoon is showing up. So we try to do things right in that session, or right in that time period. We just did, there was a 9-day period where students had 3 exams. We knew it was going to be a high stress time. And we set up a no stress zone that was an area that had things like kinetic sand and a puzzle that, you could just drop in and do a few pieces. We had coloring books and Legos and like a yoga mat and a foam roller so you could like stretch out. And we had essential oils diffusing and, some aromatherapy, things like that. And we did that from, during that middle time, like 11 to 2-ish, so that people could kind of grab it up when they're done in the morning or come up early for the afternoon. So we're still figuring out times, but I guess I'm giving you a big picture vision of this, but overall, I'm very pleased with the attendance we have. And I think that, students show up when they need to, same with faculty and staff. And people are still figuring this out. Some of the feedback I've gotten is I'm not used to somebody like reminding me to do this. This is something that I haven't been reminded of at my previous organization. So thank you for the reminder. And I'm still figuring out how to allow myself to do these things. And people take what they need, I think, and they're learning too.
So kind of along those lines, how do you think or how do you hope our wellness curriculum will help students as they spread their wings and leave Noorda? They graduate here and they go on to become a physician who is going to have a very busy life and never-ending demands. How do you think or hope that integrating this will make a difference for them at that time?
Yeah, great question. And this is my overall goal. Like if somebody said, wellness, why? Like, what are you trying to do? My goal is, all these things that we've mentioned, the assignments, the events, these are all supporting this overall goal of helping you establish habits and patterns in your life that will add to your overall wellness and longevity in your career. Battling burnout, teaching you ways to take care of self and recognize within self that like, maybe I need to take a breather for a minute. Instead of walking right into that next patient room, maybe I need to just go take a couple deep breaths or even just take the time to wash my hands and just kind of center for a minute, focus on myself. Have I eaten today? Even habits like food prep or like knowing, how to make wise choices when you are eating out because you haven't had time to prepare a lunchbox. Figuring out how to schedule your days. Like med school is stressful and there's a lot going on, but things aren't going to change when, that's not going to change when you're in your career. So figuring out habits and patterns and presenting opportunities. And, like I told that story of that student saying like, I know that soccer works for me. Hopefully by us providing all of these different opportunities, you can figure out what works for you too, and create those habits and know what you want to do in your life and how to apply that. My greatest desire is for Nordicom physicians to go into this world and provide healthcare from a compassionate space. And to be able to do that, I think we have to take care of ourselves. I had an experience one time of being at a big conference, and we ended the conference. She invited us to all stand and we placed our hands over our hearts and we repeated after her. And it was, I'm here for me. Right. And after talking about, self-care and how to take care of ourselves and health and wellness, I'm here for me holds a very important concept of, I will take care of myself. I will focus on self. But then we also added on to it, and I'm here for you. And then she had us look to the person next to us and repeat, looking at each other straight in the eye. I'm here for me, and I'm here for you. And then we looked at somebody else and we rotated around this entire room and repeated that over and over. I'm here for me, and I'm here for you. And I think that if we adopt that into healthcare and to being a healthcare provider and notice that we have to take care of self first, I have to be here for me so that I can be here for you. That's going to change healthcare, and that's going to change how we interact with patients, and it's going to change, burnout and longevity and the passion we have for our careers and how we interact. And maybe instead of getting really frustrated and lashing out at a nurse, or getting home after a really stressful day and being short-tempered with your children, hopefully we can learn how to take care of ourselves and be able to take a step back and care for ourselves first, so that we can care for others more effectively.
I like that. And then hopefully Nordicom graduates who then go out into the physician workforce will be examples for others who maybe didn't have this opportunity and didn't learn that in medical school. Because like you said, there's a big problem with physician burnout and physicians having mental health challenges related to their work being very demanding and some of the things they see. So
if I can tell another story, even sitting in this space and being more familiar with things, you tend to be more emboldened and more comfortable bringing them into new settings. So, for example, we do talking circles sometimes, and that's simply just an opportunity to sit and talk with each other in a space that's safe, that is free of judgment. We bring up a topic, and we have one coming up in December, and the topic is holidays, the joys and the frustrations. And I imagine that when I go to that talking circle, I will talk about sometimes being around, extended family sometimes makes me anxious. Like they might bring up things that I don't want to talk about, and how am I going to set those boundaries? But at the same time, I get to see my nephews and, all the things, right? But it just gives us time to talk about things and that it could potentially be uncomfortable, but also really supportive to hear that other people are going through the same situations and maybe hearing how other people are handling it. That's something that I've done and that we do. And going back to what I said about how, being familiar with these activities and then being able to carry them into other spaces, it reminds me that we were on a faculty call, a faculty meeting. And at the very end of the meeting, we think we're done, we're through the agenda. And somebody said, if I can bring something up, I have one more thing. And she proceeded to talk about how, this was last year, how a local ER physician had committed suicide. And she talked about how she knew him and how that impacted her and how it, reminded her of just how important mental health is. And, and she expressed, if anybody ever needs anything, I'm here, I'm open, please come talk to me. And then somebody else took the opportunity and said, if I can add on to that. And then somebody else took the opportunity and added on to it. And we did this little mini talking circle at the end of this faculty meeting. And to me, that's just an example of, we know how to do it. We're comfortable doing it. And when the opportunity presents itself or the need presents itself, we're ready to step into that space. And I think that it's empowering and beneficial. And if we can teach those skills now and get used to that now, that will carry on through your career and hopefully be beneficial.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay, we have a couple of questions coming in on Zoom. So Udisa is asking, first said, the No Stress Zone is such a thoughtful initiative. Does participating in campus-related activities like clubs and organizations also count as wellness?
They absolutely can. I'm not going to tell you what counts as your wellness or not, right? It's my husband and I went to a movie the other night, and it was sci-fi, it was intense, and he left, he was on cloud 9, and I left and I was like, that was stressful. Even just watching that movie, I could feel my stress levels raising, because I was like, are they going to be okay? Right? So some people may experience things as wellness that others don't. I see one of our students, he is a long distance runner, was all the way through college. And he still goes on these massive runs, so for him, it's an amazing wellness experience to go on a 14-mile run through the mountains. Full confession, that is not my choice. I would rather sit with my feet up and crochet and watch a cooking show. Okay. So that's my idea. Everybody's wellness is different. And going back to what I said about hopefully providing all these opportunities for you, you will help to figure out what works for you. And it's you get to choose what works for your wellness. And hopefully we will provide opportunities and thoughts and introduce you to different things and be able to add on to that and support you in those ways. But you get to choose wellness. So, a really fun submission that I get almost every week is there's a guy that builds stuff in a 3D printer. And he's always printing off different things, little toys, an eyeglass holder that sat on a desk and you could put little glasses on. And that's what he submits for wellness. I can while that might not be my cup of tea, I can see how it'd be really cool and really satisfying. So you get to choose. Yeah, did that answer that question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, cool.
And I think that also tackled Sudeep's question about whether or not camping would count as a wellness endeavor. Literally anything that you enjoy doing and helps you de-stress is fair game, it sounds like.
Yeah, camping would totally, absolutely. That goes back to when I said, like, maybe we should start like a photo gallery, because you're probably going to submit like a really cool picture. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yep.
Okay, Eric has a question about, are there wellness resources for families of students? So both to help themselves, but also to help their students who are attending Nordicom.
Fabulous question. We have a group attached to Noorda called The Village. Their logo, if you're not aware, Noorda's mascot is the gnome. So The Village, their logo is literally a little village with gnomes of all ages, sizes, genders, races, the whole thing. Because the concept of The Village is they are a support group for family and friends of Nordicom, whether that's students, faculty, or staff. Anyone associated with Noorda can be a part of The Village. And they support each other, and they also support students, faculty, and staff. So, they get email updates. They get invited to certain activities that we do for students, like we're going to host a holiday movie night in December and invite The Village, or invite family and friends, but we will get that word out through The Village. As The Village grows, there will be more and more activities, some that are focused on maybe people that are distance, maybe it's parents or friends back home. And then also for people that are local, some that are focused towards families, like especially with young kids, others that are maybe like date nights. One fun idea that we've kicked around is maybe doing like a fancy dinner and kind of making like a date night, where you can bring a significant other. So The Village is very instrumental in that support, like I said, in supporting each other, and then also supporting students and faculty and staff as well. We have a question and answer session coming up with The Village, where Dr. Doherty is going to go live with us at The Village, and the two gentlemen that run The Village are going to moderate that, much like you are, like we are here. And it'll be Dr. D and Mike and Dennis, and they will relay questions from The Village and essentially give an update on how this current class is doing, anything new going on with the school, probably a construction update, fun things like that, just to get information to them. And they'll have a time to ask questions as well. So that support group is in motion and happening, and I'm sure will grow and continue to develop as our student body does, and the people that love our student body adds to it as well.
That's awesome. And I'm sure that helps take some of the stress off for our students, because they don't show up here alone. They have friends and family and loved ones that they want to stay connected with, but can't always download all the day by day kind of goings on to their family because they're busy.
Yeah. And, we do fun things for The Village. Like we've created a glossary for them. So like when they hear of like match day, what is match day? So like instead of the student having to explain that, they can go to their glossary and they can understand. We will post in the Facebook group there, like, hey, we got it, like when we had that big group of exams coming up, it was like, hey, this is going to be a really big week. Maybe check in with your student. We try to give them information to maybe facilitate conversations. Like, I think we've all had that conversation where like your parent calls you and they're like, hey, how are you? And you're like, good. And like, that's where the conversation ends. It's like, we try to feed some information. So instead they can say like, hey, I hear you have exams coming up. Like, how is that preparation going? Are you feeling good about it? Maybe give some discussion prompts and kind of give them an insight into what's happening. So that then if their student wants to share more, they can. But hopefully it empowers that relationship a little bit.
I like that. All right. So does, I haven't seen anything, and maybe this is happening, I just haven't seen it because I kind of in this little corner of admissions that doesn't always see what else is going on. But do we have, or have we had opportunities or maybe advertising opportunities for students to get involved with like community events, like fairs or, holiday events in the area to help students get kind of more integrated into the community, maybe particularly for those who move from out of state?
Yeah, great question. So obviously it's like completely impossible for me to relay everything that's going on. But when super cool things come through across my radar, or I ask like the wellness committee, there's a dozen of us on the wellness committee. They're really good about sending me information as well. And I post them all on the wellness page on Encompass, which is our intranet. And so if you add yourself into the wellness group, you'll get emails every week on the wellness events that are coming up on campus that week. But then also you will see the posts that are on like the general channel. It's kind of like a news feed. And like just yesterday, I posted one about women's mental health, and they were doing like a panel. It was all online, but it was hosted by Utah Valley University just up the road. And so I posted that online, and a couple people posted and said like, oh my gosh, I love these panelists. Like, so thank you so much for posting this, and hopefully they were able to attend today. So I've posted stuff on there like the parade and a discount code to the hay ride at the pumpkin patch. And, like I try to post things in there like that. I posted the opening of the opera season up here in Salt Lake City, things like that. So like I said, clearly I'm not posting everything, so that's truly impossible. But when fun stuff comes through, I try to just like throw things up there to give ideas. I remember at the beginning of the semester, we sent out an email with a bunch of different hike ideas. And during orientation week, we actually hosted and led 3 different hikes, like a beginner's level, or like an easy level, a moderate, and then like a 14-hour hike, which a couple of people did, which I was super impressed with because it's like a pretty iconic hike around here. So like we try to introduce things like that and give suggestions. And in one of our recent wellness emails of tips and tricks, I gave some ideas for like winter wellness, right? Like, okay, the snow is going to start flying soon. Like maybe you're not going to be riding your bike as much as you're used to, but like here's some other ideas, like maybe snowshoeing or cross-country skiing, or enjoying a cup of tea, or picking up a hobby like painting or drawing or crocheting, or, things like that. So I tried to pass that on. And I think the students are really great at finding things on their own as well. Before I said anything, they found Oktoberfest at the local ski resort. And I was getting a lot of wellness pictures of Oktoberfest. And then the village did a day up at Oktoberfest as well. So they found that one on their own, no problem.
That's awesome. Yeah. And if you out there are familiar with Utah at all, we have activities going on all the time, all over the state for all the holidays. There's an endless supply of things to do. So yeah, it would absolutely be impossible for you to share about all the things that are happening.
Yeah. So. One thing we do during orientation, we do like a quick wellness presentation, and we give you a bunch of Instagram handles and Facebook pages and social media and things to follow of local government and like cities and things like that. And they're always posting things to do as well. So if you start following those accounts, like you'll get looped in real quick.
That's awesome. Okay. Next question. So you kind of talked about this a little bit, but what do you do for your own wellness?
Oh, awesome question. So I'm going to be a bit vulnerable for a minute because I feel that vulnerability is a great educational opportunity. So I grew up the oldest of 6 in a home where a lot of responsibility came down on me, and I learned at a very early age to essentially focus on helping other people and not so much myself. It took me a very long time to realize that was not a healthy pattern for me. And it wasn't until I was in my mid-30s that I really started to pay attention to it and make a change. I loved college athletic training. I loved college sports medicine, and being in that setting, it was very long hours and a ton of travel. It wasn't until I met my husband and I had a reason to be at home more that I decided that I wanted a change in my career, and that's when I started to transition more into higher education. So I guess all that to say, like, this has not been something that's come easy to me, and I am a full believer that paying attention to your own wellness and taking care of self is usually not an easy road. I was talking with a dear friend the other day, and he's in in a tough space in his life and struggling with some things, and was talking about going to counseling. And I said, have you ever been to a therapist before? And he said, I went once and it really wasn't fun. It was actually quite horrible and I've never been back. And I laughed, and we got into this conversation about how it's not always easy, right? Like it can be very difficult, and it can be, I like to say like a therapy hangover. Like sometimes that can happen, right? So all that to say that wellness isn't easy. And I walked that road for a long time and made a career change ultimately to take better care of myself. So I understand the limitations or the difficulty of learning how to take care of self. With that being said, it makes me even more passionate about how important it is to do it. And I've seen in the changes I've made in my own life, I've seen my physical health improve. I've seen my bandwidth improve. I'm more patient. I'm more kind. I'm able to really analyze what I want to do in my life and respond instead of react, to make intentional movements in my life, to spend my days in intentional ways, instead of being like, where'd that day go? And not really know what I did and not really feel like I made a decision on how I spent my day. And so all of that's really important to me. I guess that's more of my philosophy or like my experience with wellness, but like specific things I do for wellness. My husband and I are really big urban farmers. We have on our tiny little urban plot, we have over 200 square feet of garden beds and almost 10 chickens. So we do a lot of gardening and processing, canning, making jams and pickles and all that kind of stuff. I love to cook, hence the watching cooking shows. I love to crochet. That's like a little mindless thing to keep my hands busy. And then at the end, I'm like, look at this blanket or look at this cute little animal I made. So I love that. I love spending time with my family. I'm the oldest of 6, like I said. So we have a big, loud, crazy family. And I love spending time with them. One of my nephews has gotten into volleyball and going and watching him play. And, it's overtime for volleyball, right? Because you got to win by 2 points, and we're like up in the high 20s, and it's like back and forth, and they win off of his block, and like we all go nuts in the stands. Like that is something that filled my heart to the brim for days. So those are some things. My puppy that my pandemic puppy, special needs puppy that I adopted in the middle of a pandemic, who's attached to my hip. He is very much part of my wellness as well. So those are some examples of my life. There's lots more, but those are some examples.
I appreciate that. And thank you for your vulnerability and sharing. Yeah. Okay, one last quick question before we have to wrap things up here. So Rima is asking if in the future students will have the opportunity to be a part of that wellness committee that you recommended to help promote the balance and wellness on campus.
Yeah, absolutely. So this all comes through student government. So we do have a representative from student government that does sit on the wellness committee. And student government just got figured out, what was that, Kristen, like 3 weeks ago or something? Like it was very recent. So we had the student representative at at the wellness committee for the first time at our meeting just a week and a half ago. And it was great to have him there because, for a year now, we've been talking about things and we've had our perspective, but it was great. We found ourselves multiple times during the meeting saying, hey, what's your perspective? And asking him directly. And he also has a great pulse on how the student body's feeling and what they think. So it was really great to have his input. So when I say yes, there is opportunity to be on the wellness committee, it is for one person, and that is done through student government. They're your representative there. I will also say that everyone on the wellness committee is really open to things. Like I get emails from students all the time, things like questions or suggestions for events, or like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Do you have any input? And you are always welcome to email, and we can take that straight to the committee if needs be, or if that's your request. But the specific representative comes through your student government.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, and we have students integrated in all kinds of committees across campus, and their hands and their input is taken into a lot of different areas, which is really great. Yeah. Okay. I like to wrap these up with the the guest speaker sharing a little nugget or word of wisdom to leave with the viewers. So if you have any little bits of kind of final thoughts, words of wisdom to leave with our viewers, I would love to hear that.
I would love that. If I can have two, I would appreciate it. One is, please remember you're not in this alone. Research shows us that social support helps lower stress levels. And also you're not in this alone from an IPE standpoint as well, right? So remember your friends and family, remember your mentors, remember the people that you work with or that you're going to work with. And when things get overwhelming, sometimes it just helps to know that there's people behind you and beside you, and you're not in this alone. And that will be the way throughout your entire career and life, as long as you allow that to be that way. Second is my second piece is start today to take care of yourself and figure out how to do that. That may be finding something new, or maybe it's as simple as what I'm doing is working. And sometimes it's just identifying opportunities. At the side of my computer monitor, I have a list of suggestions to remind me to get up and get away. And they're categorized by 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours. Because I might feel like I only have 30 seconds, and that's take 5 breaths, that's make some noise. Like sometimes if I ohm or if I just like let out huge sighs, that helps. Pet my dog, fill my water glass. Those are my 30-second options. My 2 hours are have lunch with my husband, go for a walk, right? So like bigger things. So sometimes it's nice and it visually reminds me, but then it also doesn't make me have to think and create in the moment. I can literally go down a list and pick, kind of like a menu, a wellness menu. That's what I need to call it. Create your wellness menu. That's my takeaway.
I love that. Thank you. I've learned some stuff, and I'm going to take some nuggets away from this. This has been great. Thank you.
We're doing our faculty lunch and learn in January, and I will touch on the wellness menu, the newly named wellness menu. Yeah.
I like that. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for being here with us today and sharing a little bit about our wellness curriculum and interprofessional education here at Nordicom. Thank you all for joining us. And we'll be back again next week with another Faculty Friday session. As a reminder, you can register to attend these on Zoom with us at nordicom.org/events. And then we always live stream to Facebook and YouTube. And you can also go back to Facebook and YouTube and find recordings of all of the previous Faculty Friday events if you missed any of those. So again, thank you for being with us today, Sarah, and we'll see everyone next week.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.